Hey everybody, Young Grasshopper here. Welcome to the Cliffside Bunker in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Just want to shoot a video and show you guys my latest creation. So I built a new table. A lot of you may be asking, hey, what happened to that beautiful 8-foot long custom table you had? So I know it's only been about 6 months since I built that, but after living in my space for a while and having the big sofa and everything, I decided to go in a different direction. It was a big decision. It was a hard decision, but ultimately I pulled the trigger, made a choice, built this new table. I'm much happier. I've got more room. Before, I felt a little bit suffocated with how much stuff I had in my space, but there's other reasons why I chose to just build this type of table, more practical, smaller and whatnot. We're going to get into all of that, so I'm just going to do a little flyby. And I do have an Axonalize map on the board. It's a house rule map, so I'm sure many of you will be asking me about the map, but this is a video about my table that I built, and I'll go through periodically the reasons why I decided to go in this direction. But one of them is the fact that I have a rabbit and she has this big pen, and that was taking up space as well. I could not fit it underneath my other big custom table because I didn't really think about putting her under the table, but I didn't want to put her in a smaller pen or a smaller cage. She really likes that. I picked that up off the side of the road. It's like a big heavy duty plastic, but light enough and big enough and easy to clean. So I built my new table here with that in mind, to have this rabbit pen so that I'm not using up lots of space. I'll just show you here. It can be slid out. She's a little shy. But I'm much happier that not only does she keep her large pen, which she likes, but I've got enough space for it. And I'll just show you some details here. It's kind of crude. I'm not a woodworker or carpenter by any means, right? A lot of people would have probably preferred a 45 there, but I've just been used to building my banks like this. So what I do is, with these banks, these 2x4s, I go to Home Depot and I grab pine. So pine is really smooth. Now, I did not sand or varnish this one, and I don't know, I'd like to have a nice table with a beautiful finished stain on it, but my last one, the first attempt with the big table, didn't really work out the way that I liked, and I decided to just keep this one simple, raw. But if you do build something like this, you want to make sure that your boards are straight. I went through so many, just looking down the length of them, and they were curved, they were crooked, they bent, and I spent quite a while just picking out boards that had a nice straight, right, and not chipped or anything along the edges. And I picked out just a nice thick 3/4 inch plywood, and that length is 4 feet by 80 inches. So I kept the 4 foot length and 80 inches, 80. So with that 80 inches, you can see here, there's a little bit of room, but not much. So it fits my 72 inch by 33 inch custom printed map perfectly. There's even a little bit more space here, but that's fine. And I've shown these plastic trays before in the past in another video. I really like them. They're compartmentalized and they have a lid for them, so you can keep the lids on them, keep dust out of them. store them well because they stack on top of each other really nicely. And they're so cheap. They're like $1.25 at Dollar Tree. So I get not only trays for Axes and Allies, but my other games as well. And these are also in the same area, trays like this. And I'll get some of these for board game pieces, components that don't fit so much in here. But I had a table like this at my old bachelor apartment. I wasn't there long, a year before I found this apartment, but this is along the same designs as the tables that I built for the tournament back in 2017. So those of you that were there remember playing on a table surface that had the 2x4 banks all around it and the printed map inside. And I used one of those in my last apartment because I was in transition and I was in a new job, in a new apartment, just trying to make things work, and it was fine. A big reason why I went back to a smaller practical table like this was because I felt like we had a pretty decent gaming environment, pretty decent board game surface to play on. And of course, when I got this place, my ambition was to always get back to building a custom table like I had at my old house in the original bunker. And I did that. And I found that there was a lot of things that I couldn't do with it. And space was a big issue, but it was really hard to play other games. So sometimes my group comes over here and we play other games, Star Wars Rebellion or, you know, Catan, Twilight Imperium, whatever they want to play. And it was difficult because it was just so custom made for Axes and Allies only. I'll show you here that I stripped some of the components from my old table. I've got this 4x4 brace here with the leg. And I only went with 4 legs on this one. It's all that's needed. My old table had 6 legs because it was longer. All right. And I also want to show you that for a surface, I decided that I was going to go with a rug. A very thin rug, not shaggy at all. But you can see here the kind of rug that I used on my old dice tray surfaces on my other table. I completely covered it with this rug. So the entire surface is like just this nice thin rug. It was a choice. I mean, you guys can go ahead and decide what surface set you want if you were to build something like this, but it kind of goes far when you're playing other games on the table. It's easy to pick up cards, like for example, we play Seven Wonders Duel. So it's easy to pick up cards on the surface. If you have a flat, smooth surface, it's hard to get your nails underneath cards and pick them up. This rug surface really makes a huge difference. And when you're rolling dice, it's nice and soft. You can roll dice anywhere on the table, right? Now, obviously, when we're playing Axes and Allies, the entire table surface is taken up. You can see that. But everything fits really well. These banks keep everything on the inner level. These trays keep everything nicely organized. And there's room for all the nations, plus a couple of trays for some extra components like factories, like other acrylic chips, roundels. Now, we don't have the abacus or the dice trays that were on my last table, but we managed with dice tray, dice, and if you have to have a side table that has some components on it and whatnot. I'm using this map to show you the table simply because on my other map, I had to cut the income tracker off it because when I built my 8-foot table, I got the dimensions wrong and it wouldn't fit 33 inches perfectly. I decided that I wanted that wooden divider going between the wooden trays, if you remember. So I did not calculate properly and I ended up cutting off. I'm using this to show you that it can easily fit a 72 by 33 map. All right. So I'm just going to show you a picture now of what I mean by using other games, using this table for other games, which was important for me. It was a big reason. So here's a picture of Star Wars Rebellion on the same table. And it was important that I be able to diversify and use the table for other things other than Axis and Allies. And just with the wooden trays and everything on the 8-foot table, that was extremely difficult. So there's an example of how I can use this table for other games. So if you're interested in building something like this, it's very easy. Get a piece of plywood, 3/4 inch thick. Okay, now you can see the rug there in between the bank and the surface, the plywood surface. Okay, and once you have that plywood cut down to the right size, you can go ahead and put your banks on. Remember, very important to pick out nice 2x4 material, and then you drill from the bottom up. You put screws from the bottom up into there. Make sure everything's flush. Right now, before that, you have to decide if you're fine with putting something smooth on a surface. You'll have to on the plywood, because the plywood's very rough, has slivers and everything. So before you put your banks on, you want to decide what surface you may have to put something down. Okay, now I use carpenter's glue to just glue that rug to the surface before I put the banks on. Make sure everything is nicely fitted. You can use a clamp. Make sure you put something underneath that clamp piece so that you don't put an indent in the wood. Just to hold it tight while you're screwing 2 screws from the bottom. And remember, screw one closer to the outer edge and one closer to the inner edge, and then stagnate them from the bottom up. All right, that's going to allow for this really nice flush. See how flush it is there against the surface? And now if you only put screws on the outer, you're going to see a lift there, and that's why you want to stagger them inner and outer. Okay, very simple to build. Anybody could do it. Just got to make sure you pick your equipment right and take your time. And then of course go ahead and sand it and stain it. And this is just a typical 4x4 post cut down right, and there's these braces. Okay, you screw them from the down up, you fit them in, and then you screw them into the leg. All right, so very simple design. Anybody can do it. You can see here that I'm doing something with my large sectional sofa. So I sold it and waiting for that to leave the apartment. I'm making more room, more space, because my original vision for my area just wasn't working out after living here for a while. Everything seemed very cramped, and I feel much better now, and I just really happier with a simple, more practical, smaller table in the space that I have to work with. So thanks a lot, guys. If you plan on making something like this, just jump right in, do it. I encourage you guys, if you want something like this. I really like the level in the center that the 2x4 banks create. Keeps all the components inside on the table without, you know, stuff being knocked off, constantly bending over, picking stuff off the floor and everything. You know, a lot of people might say, oh, you really should have sanded that and stained it, but what wasn't confident enough. Right? Didn't want to be disappointed with anything. I'm happy with it right now. But thanks a lot, guys. I am redesigning my gaming area overall. You can see that the couch needs to go, and I got the TV there. I've moved, and I'm going to be getting some more shelves and whatnot. And the plan down the road might be to build a second one, because yes, my area, my space here without the large sofa and everything can fit 2 of these. However, I'm holding off on that decision for a while, but I'm really happy with the game table that I have now. But quite possibly, and I'm leaving myself open to it, but making sure that that is what I want to do, I could very well have 2 tables here with at least a 4-foot space in between to walk around. We'll see. Again, that's further down the road, but anyway, thanks a lot, guys. That's my new custom table. Very simple. And I'm glad that I do have videos on my channel explaining how I built the large 8-foot table. But like I said, wanted something more practical, something that I could interchange with other board games. I'm very, very happy with this. We've played here a few times now, my group. We played on this table and it works great. So wanted to share that with you guys. So that's it. I'll sign off. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for liking my videos, commenting, subscribing. Cheers, guys. May all your rolls be ones. Till the next time, have a good one.